In this video, we're going to look at the different way that you can merge data with Panda DataFrames. This is going to look at how you can merge along different values, how you can handle duplicated columns, and also managing null values. If you find this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and also consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to begin by importing NumPy and Pandas into the workbook as NP and PD. When exploring how we can merge data with Pandas, we'll be performing what is very similar to SQL operations upon our data frames. So if you're familiar with SQL, this video should come quite naturally. Otherwise, don't worry, as we're going to explain this step by step. I'll start by creating my own data frame called goals.df. This will consist of two columns, one for the players, which I will instantiate with an array of 4 values. So we'll have Aneesh, Calvin, Patrick, and Stuart. Then a column for goals, and this will also consist of an array of 1, 4, 6, and 2. Now if I return the data frame to the console, we can see this displayed. I'm going to create another data frame, but this time for the number of caps our players have. So I'll have an array of players as Brendan, Calvin, Archie, and Stuart. And the caps of 5, 5, 6, and 3. What you may notice is that not all the players in the goals data frame are in the caps data frame and vice versa. There is, however, some overlap for Calvin and Stuart. We will see what this means for our data when we begin to merge it a little bit later on. So we can merge our data using the merge method from the Pandas library. Within the method, we will need to specify which data sources we're merging, how we would like to merge, and upon which column to reference between our sources for that merge. So let's try to understand this with our data. I'll write pd.merge, then the first arguments will be our data sources. So I will put goals.df followed by caps.df. This is quite understandable as we're telling our method which sources we would like to merge. And then when merging data, there needs to be a reference column in both tables. So this means a column that matches in both tables that will allow Python to know whose goals belong to who and whose caps belong to who. So for this, I will put on equals player. This means the merge will look at the player column in both tables when combining the data. Lastly, we will specify how we would like to merge the data, which will tell Python what to do if there isn't a perfect match for the player column in both data frames. So for this, I will put how equals inner. This means we're using an inner join on our data frames. So if there is a player that does not exist in both data frames, then that row will be omitted from our new data frame. So we can see the result of Calvin and Stuart with the respective goals and caps. We only have these 2 rows because the inner join will only return values that exist in both tables for that player column. Hopefully this makes sense so far, but to better illustrate how the way we merge data can impact what is returned to us, we will also explore the left join as well. So if I copy our merge statement and update the how argument to left, we'll be using what is known as a left join. This means Python is going to take all the data from our left data frame, which is the first data frame we've specified. The left join will pull in all the data from that goals data frame and then populate the caps data where the player exists in both data frames. So the order that we specify our data frames in the merge is important. If I were to switch the goals data frame and the caps data frame around, and it will add data for the goals where there is a match on the player name. What we can now see is that all 4 players from our caps data frame are being returned, and then the values for the goals are populated where the player exists in that same goals data frame. We can instead use a right join to achieve a similar result that we get from switching the order of our data frames. So if we wanted to pull all the data from the second data frame that we specify and only enrich players with the goals where they exist in the goals data frame, I can change the how value to right, and this is a right join. So the right join does not perform exactly the same as a left join with the data frame swapped around, as the order of our columns will remain to show us the goals first, then the caps second. Whereas if we were to use a left join with the caps data frame first, we can see the caps will be shown on the left and then the goals on the right. It's just worth noting this difference when designing your merge. The final merge option we will look at is the outer merge. This will return all data frame information, populating NaN where the data does not exist. We can now see 6 rows being returned to us with all the values populated as they exist in our data frames. So to conclude this video, I'm going to look at a few unique arguments we can pass into our merge function when handling data frames that are of a less standardized nature. So far, we've been merging our data on the player column in both data frames. However, it could be possible that one of the data frames does not contain that field, or rather it has been set as the index for the data frame. So I'm going to simulate this by equating the goals data frame to what it currently is, and then using the set index method with the value of player. We can now see the goals data frame contains just one column for goals, and the player is now that index. So we can no longer use the on argument to merge these data frames on the same column name, as the goals data frame does not contain that player column. What we can do instead is specify the left and the right values to merge upon individually. We can tell Python that we want to use the left index to merge upon with left underscore index equals true, and then we can tell Python the right column we want to merge upon with right underscore on equals player. This is highly customizable, so if sort of the circumstances were the other way around, we could use merge using the right index and then the left column using left underscore on. So I'm just going to now recreate the goals data frame. However, I will be using the column heading of name rather than player for the player's name. And we can see this printed below. If we wanted to now perform a merge between the goals data frame and the caps data frame, we won't be able to specify on as player because the column does not exist equally in both data frames. In a similar way to using index and right column, we can specify the names of the left and right column to merge upon with left underscore on equals name and right underscore on equals player. If I return this data frame to the console, we however see a duplicated column as the name and player are unique column names. If we want to drop a column, we can do so using the drop command specifying the name of the column and instructing Python that this is a column being dropped with the axis as equal to 1. So that concludes this video on the basic ways that we can merge data frames with pandas and the various arguments we can pass into our merge to achieve a customized merge of our data. Check out my series on Python videos if you'd like to learn more about pandas, and stay tuned for more videos where I will begin to look into matplotlib for illustrating data in graphs.